graduation with multiple exits and multiple entrances. Will anybody come back after a number of exits? Education, and then the final is the higher education entrance only through one single window entrance examination by National Testing Agency, NTA. It's also called that, thought of that this policy is much anti-minority, anti-SC, ST, anti-OBC, promoting only the rich and the high class. It's a highly commercialized and centralized policy. So these are the apprehensions in summary. So my take would be there are number of positive points, but there are number of apprehensions as well. So it is a policy with a lot of opportunities with apprehensions and opportunities. The good things about this policy, I will go through it very fast because this morning already you heard much about it. Respect for diversity and local content, equity and inclusion, community participation, use of technology is very much stressed, emphasizing on conceptual understanding. Unique capabilities are talked about. Critical thinking and creativity is very much stressed. And then continuous review assessment system is totally going to be different type. It's a continuous assessment system. Assessment not of the students, but assessment for the students, to help the students. That's the concept of the new assessment. It speaks about the universal access. That means elementary education, 100% attendance. All should be in the school. Equity and inclusion. 2 crores of out-of-school children have to be brought into the system. SDG goals are to be achieved. Foundational literacy and numeracy is very much stressed. That is the first 5 years. 21st century skills, it speaks of school complexes in order to share resources. Then effective governance, separation of powers and common norms. Then language is getting a big boost in this policy. Language policies and 3 language policy system. Common standards for public. That means public and private institutions, government institutions and private institutions must come on par, on an equal footing. So it intends to achieve equitable and inclusion education by 2030 in 10 years time. Special education zones, it speaks about economically disadvantaged regions, scholarships for students from disadvantaged groups as well as from special economic zones, special education zones. Gender inclusion is aimed at availability and capacity development of teachers. And then the government is planning to use multiple channels to achieve this. Learning outcome will be what is in focus. Schools buildings will be, many more schools will have to be built, and anybody who is interested in education will be brought into the multiple pathways to reach these targets that the government is setting before it. Bringing back dropouts, alternative centers, peer tutoring. These are all new concepts that this education policy is speaking about for the first time. This is the major change in school system, departing from the 10+2+ system to 5+3+3+4. The first 5 years are called the foundation stage, then the preparatory stage, then middle school is 5, 6, 7, and then 9, 10, 11, 12 will be the secondary stage with the multidisciplinary learning and in semester system. So the new national policy school highlights are about school. The highlights are universalization of early childhood and education, national mission on foundational literacy, 5+3+3+4 system, curriculum to integrate 21st century skills, mathematical thinking, scientific temper, machine learning, etc. No rigid separation between arts, science, and commerce. It will be a general education that will be stressed, without any streaming. Education of gifted children is talked about, innovative methods to be used, gender inclusion through Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyapits to be upgraded to class 12. Reduction in curriculum to core concepts. This is a very new concept. That means the entire curriculum is not to get equal importance, but separate the core concepts from the rest and then stress on the core concepts, and the examinations will include only the core concepts. Vocational integration from class 6 onwards, which is a huge boosting for skill education, Skilling India project and skill learning. The new education must be very much skill based. That's the concept of the government and this policy. So it speaks about new curriculum framework. The new curriculum framework is what will make this possible. to happen. To implement this policy, the first step is formulating the new curriculum framework, which the work has already started. It has got 2 years to do that. Board examinations will be of low stake. That means not as much importance will be given to board examination as we are doing now. It will be based on knowledge application. Medium of instruction till at least class 5, grade 5 should be in the local language or home language or mother tongue. Mother tongue and regional language is very much stressed. The progress card will be of a different type. Not only the academic achievements are included, but 360-degree holistic progress card. All the abilities of the child, all the aptitudes of the child will have to appear in the progressive holistic progress card. Tracking the student progress for achieving learning outcomes. National Assessment Center. There will be a National Assessment Center called PARAK. This will be a kind of a counterpart of the NAAC accreditation system, the NAS and SAS taking care of the school assessment. So there will be an assessment system also for schools, like as it is happening now with the colleges. National Testing Agency will be the single window common entrance examination for all higher education except law and medicine. National Professional Standard for schools will be there. Book promotion policy and digital library. So a lot of stress on libraries and promotion of books and digital libraries, etc. Transparent online self-disclosure in order to promote transparency and accountability. Administrative accountability and financial accountability will be very much stressed. Multilingualism and the power of language learning is very much stressed. This language learning has gone through a big transition. First, it talked about the southern states must have a stress on Hindi and the northern states must stress on Sanskrit. All that has changed with the from TSR Subramanian draft to Kasturirangan draft and the present draft. The present draft simply says any 3 languages can be taken, and it will depend on the states and the union territories to decide what language they will take. Assessments. There will be a assessment at the end of class 2 and level of class 5, class 8, and then of course the semester system in classes 9, 10, 11, 12, and at the end of class 12 there will be the board examinations. Now, the first draft of TSR Subramanian draft, they called it census assessment in class T, after class 2, class 5, and class 8, census assessment. So what will be this kind of assessment? What type of examination or what assessment will be? That the curriculum framework, people will decide what kind of assessment will be taken at that level. But board examination will be after class 12, and that will be 9, 10, 11, 12. Secondary stage will be in semester system. So there's a change in the examination system. Board exam. Many people ask, will the board examination boards remain? Yes, they have to continue. They will continue very much. Innovative pedagogy. It speaks about experiential learning, integrated pedagogy, promotion of peer tutoring. Bagless days, 10 days of the school year will be without bags. Equal weightage will be given to all subjects. There is no hard and fast differentiation of streaming at that level of schooling from 9 onwards. Use of integration of technology will be very much there, digital learning and things like that. Now the question is, how practical are these? School complexes. This is a very much talked about thing. Some of it is already there by way of this school hub. CBSE already has got. As long as it remains in the level of sharing resources or helping out or networking with schools, it's okay. But the moment it interferes into that, you have to join this particular. For government schools, it will not be a problem. Now, how the school complexes are going to be enforced, whether it can fringe into minority rights or not, that's another question that will come up at the curriculum formulation time. Bal Bhavans and some Chetna Kendras will be used for learning, alternative learning. Sharing your resources is the main idea of having the school complex. Efficiency, it's for efficiency and planning. Governance is talked about integration, better integration of education across all levels through connecting schools. Pairing of schools. This policy for the first time, this was not in the previous drafts of Subramanian draft or Kasturirangan draft, but in this draft there is a twinning of schools. One private school with one government school will be twinned in order to share resources. How far it's going to be, in what form, we'll have to wait and see when the national curriculum framework is completed. This is the new assessment system. Teacher education, I got just one slide on teacher education. Teacher education will be for integrated 4-year course, graduation and teacher education together for 4 years. And so which means somebody who is going into teaching line will have to decide after class 12 whether he will go into teaching line. If so, he'll have to take an integrated graduation and BEd together. There will be no more BA or BSc or BCom. It may be called BLA, Bachelor of Liberal Arts, because there's no more streaming. You can choose any subjects whatsoever, cutting across streams. So you can take history, you can take physics, you can take social studies or political science, whatever. So that's the type of, so it's a general education that is going to be stressed. That's why it's called liberal arts type of education, beginning from class 9 till postgraduate studies. Now, 4-year course, 4-year integrated BEd course with graduation will be the normal, which will be effective absolutely from 10 years from now. But the coming 10 years, the 2-year BEd course also will be available for those who have already done graduation. So naturally, they have already finished graduation, so they need to do the 2-year. There will be also shorter BEd courses for special education, for teaching children with disability and things like that. There will be 1-year BEd course and 6 months BEd course for this extremely specialized area of education. Training only in multidisciplinary institutions. So BEd will have to be taken. So there will be no more single stream colleges. No arts college, no science college, no BEd college, but all the colleges will have cutting across all multidisciplinary. It has to be, and it has to be in big numbers. Minimum number in a college will have to be 3,000. So that's about BEd education. So not that suddenly the 2-year BEd is going to go off. There is 10 years for, but those who are beginning to do BEd now will have to do the 4-year course. But of course, how early it will start, we do not know. They have 2 years to develop the curriculum. By 2022, the curriculum framework has to be ready. That's the first step towards implementation of this policy. I heard this morning, Father was talking about, approaching the government, giving suggestions, responses about the new education policy. Some states, like I think 32 vice chancellors from Tamil Nadu returned to the Prime Minister to withdraw this education policy. And so I think at this level, education policy withdrawal is out of the question, because it's a last 6-7 years they have been working on it, starting from 2016 with the Education Minister Smriti Irani, and then the first drafting committee chairman TSR Subramanian. Then that draft was very much objected to. Even Catholic Church hit the road in Delhi, and the Communist Party also had a lot of objective across the party lines. There were a lot of objections, and the Education Minister also changed, and Mr. Prakash Javadekar on the floor of the House, he said that I am withdrawing this policy, and he withdrew the policy and dismantled the first drafting committee and put up the second drafting committee under Kasturirangan, Dr. Kasturirangan. And that he brought out, he had actually initially wanted to bring out a 60-page education policy draft, but he brought out a 665 education policy draft. And then the government took it up, and then from there they have evolved this 64 or 65, 66 pages of National Education Policy 2020. So at this time, the government has already passed it through a cabinet decision, and this education policy is a policy, not a legislation. It's a policy. So there's a huge difference between policy and legislation. Legislation has to be passed in the parliament, but not a policy. A policy need not, unless of course all the opposition parties together demand that this should be discussed in the parliament, and if the speaker allows that, then of course a discussion can be done. So, but then we can still, everything is not lost. Even if you have got a lot of apprehensions, as we will see, we have a number of apprehensions, we can still approach the government. We can still address these apprehensions to the government by approaching the NCERT and other National Curriculum Framework Committee. The National Curriculum Framework Committee is already at work. You got 102 themes to be answered, all the teachers and the principal, and those answers are reached. Of course, unfortunately, they go only 1 week's time, which could have been extended if somebody had demanded, or I think they may still take suggestions at this curriculum, because they also got time. 2 years time is there. By 2022 only this curriculum framework needs to be ready, but their work has started. And if you, those who are aware of it, if you go to the education portal, Ministry of Education, every day there is a webinar. Every day, morning and afternoon, there is a webinar, 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, on the new education policy. Today, I think the webinar was on the examination systems, the new assessment systems. So it is not a question of withdrawing the national education policy that we should approach, but we can still approach with suggestions towards a new curriculum framework, because new curriculum framework is what is going to make this education policy come alive and true and happen. So that area is still open. Coming into the higher education level, we have Catholic Church, we have got lesser higher education institutions than schools. It speaks about world-class education in pursuit of excellence, multidisciplinary liberal education without any streaming, regular reforms of breaking the public-private divide. All the universities or colleges will be of equal standard, expansion with quality assurance and access, research ecosystem. Research system is totally going to be revamped with the National Research Foundation for funding and monitoring of quality, and to make sure that research happens, because India has got 19% of world's brain and only 1.8% of research output. So that's extremely low. Faculty focus, mentoring, retention, incentives, development for faculties. Governance and leadership is in focus. Academic freedom and institutional autonomy. From 10 years from now, there will be only autonomous colleges and no more what's called the affiliating colleges. So there's nothing called affiliation anymore. Public funding and private philanthropy is very much talked about. That means anybody, private institution, private colleges will be allowed, self-financed colleges will be allowed, colleges of excellence will be established, foreign universities will be brought in. Internationalization, accreditation, and digitalization is also very much talked. 50% of gross enrollment ratio is what is aimed at by 2035. In 15 years time, they want to. At the moment, the gross enrollment rate ratio is, I think, 26%. Earlier it was 19%. It came up to 23. Now it's 26%. That means of the students passing out of class 12, only 26% can enter into college. That's the situation now, which they want to bring up to 50% by 15 years. Holistic and multidisciplinary education, flexibility of subjects, multiple entry, multiple exit. This is an extremely new concept. That means you need not do your graduation all in one go. You can do 1 year after that. You can take a break or go for a job and come back after 1 year if you want. Your qualification will be stored in the cloud, and then you can continue from where you left. It's a good concept, but some say it's a bad concept also. The undergraduate programs can be 3 or 4 years. Postgraduate program can be 1 year or 2 years. So there are different kinds of graduation you can take. A single 1 year graduation will be a certificate course. Second, 2 year graduation will be a diploma course. 3 year graduation will be a BLA, Bachelor of Liberal Education, and 4 year graduation will be required if you want to do research. Integrated 5-year bachelor's course or master's course. MPhil is no more. Credit transfer system, academic bank of credit. So your credits will be preserved, and then when you want to come back, and you can exit, and when you want to come back, you can continue from where you left off. That's a provision that's being offered. So National Higher Education Regulation Committee will be the main body that will control all the higher education, and all other bodies like UGC becomes HEGC, Higher Education Grant Committee, and this becomes only what's called professional standard setting bodies. That means they will basically have inspection power, and then suggesting improvements. AICT, NCT, MCA, Medical Council of India, they'll all become PSSBs without hardly any administrative power. 3 types of higher education institutions: research universities, teaching universities, and autonomous degree colleges, college hubs. So similar to school complex, there will also be college hubs will be there, college clusters. Cluster of colleges will be joined together for networking and sharing your resources. No more affiliations. All colleges will be of type 3. That means multidisciplinary college clusters with minimum 3,000 students in each college. So that is this numbers 3,000 may not be a big deal in a place like Delhi or other metros, but think of the northeastern states. They can never have 3,000 students in a college. So what they will do, we will come to it a little later. Multidisciplinary educational and liberal arts type of education with 4 types of qualification: certificate course or diploma course or bachelor's course or integrated course going towards higher education. Multidisciplinary educational research universities will be there. National Research Foundation, as I mentioned, for funding and promoting research. Reaffirming integrity of faculty, institutional leadership, etc. There will be everything will be put up on public domain on websites, public for all to see. Here is where an area where they can target some institutions if they want. That's a fear that is expressed, apprehension that is very much expressed. Open and distance learning. Now this 50% enrollment ratio, gross enrollment ratio will be only taking into account also the online courses, credit courses, massive online courses, MOOC, all these kind of things. So it is not really the regular courses that alone will be counted, but all these, even technical education, will come into the picture. Internationalization of education, allowing foreign universities to come in and also promoting colleges of excellence, 100 or 200 colleges of excellence. Of course, it will create a lot of disparity, and commercialization of education will be there. Education will become very costly. That is true. No more deemed to be universities, but all no more affiliated universities or deemed universities, but all will have to become autonomous universities in question of 10 years time. To do PhD, you need a master's degree or 4-year bachelor's course with research as one of the subjects. The government wanted to bring all the entire higher education under one single window, but actually in the process of doing that, it has multiplied more than before. There are so many. There is supposed to have been only National Higher Education Research Regulatory Committee, NERA, but it has also become so many PSSBs, professional standard setting bodies like HCGC, NCTVT, NCTE, MCI, NIC, NTA, MOE, all these kind of things comes. So it has actually in the process multiplied the institutions that will control you. So it will also serve as a lot of blocks on the way when you will be really working at it. National Education Technology Forum body, these are all other bodies that are coming in the process, which were not there earlier. So it's a wishful thinking or a vision or recommendation. There is no roadmap. That's another criticism that is there. One plus point, everybody looks at it happily, is that 6% of GDP is now promised for education. But then there are two catches in this. First is it is with state cooperation. So they can always blame each other, or the state didn't cooperate or the center didn't cooperate, and so at the end we'll be back to square one. Earlier also this 6% of GDP was promised for education as early as Kothari Commission onwards, that is 1964 onwards. So it is nothing new. Promise is always a promise until it is accomplished. This policy is an assault on public funded. This is the biggest danger with this policy as far as higher education section is concerned. It's an assault on public funded, socially inclusive higher education institutions. These are the institutions that will suffer. Very close to us, there is the Jawaharlal Nehru University, is a public funded, socially inclusive. There the fee is only a few hundred rupees, 4-year hostel and things like that. So those kind of colleges and universities which are socially inclusive, meant for everybody, inclusive universities where even the poorest child can study with a very minimum cost because it is public funded. Those are the universities that will really suffer. We have got many like that in this country that will find to be eliminated. So contradictions in this higher education sector and the whole policies that there's a lot of commercialization, centralization and control. Communalization through RSS agenda is another apprehension that is very much feared. Automatic dropout with multiple exit and entry. So here what's happened is multiple exit and multiple entry at your graduation level or later on with your degree being stored in the cloud, and then later on you can come back and continue from where you left off. The danger is if I am studying graduation and I finish 2 years and I get a good job in a bank or in a public sector, why I should come back? After all, my education is for a good job and that I already have. So what will happen here is nobody is going to fail. Nobody is going to be kicked out of an institution because they failed anymore. They are going to go out voluntarily. You see, this is the biggest apprehension among the poor class, lower middle class and middle class people. That is, we will just walk out by ourselves because we get a good job. Multiple entry, multiple exit is there. So, and once you exit, you really have to think twice before you come back. Should I put aside the job I am doing and come back and study? And then after that, if I don't get a good job, what happens? So these are practical difficulties that will come on the way. Single window national testing authority giving admission to all higher education is also like NEET. This is on a pattern of NEET. There are a lot of criticisms against NEET even now. 6% GDP, as I said, it's a promise. This policy is an assault on public funded, I already mentioned that, socially inclusive institutions, and is allowed to corporatized and commercialized agencies. So that's a danger. We asked some of these apprehensions we placed before the Dr. Shakila Shamsu. I'll come to that. So it's a kind of a nail on the democracy because it's a policy that has been drawn up exclusively by the center. The state had very little say to that. All the implementation is left to the states, but the policy is drawn up by the center mostly. This is the policy. For the first time, they have put up a timeline of implementation. That's something very praiseworthy. That means they want to achieve step by step these things. So the first thing to be achieved is curriculum framework. The curriculum framework has to be ready by 2022. So the entire year 2021 and 2022, they will prepare the curriculum framework. And it is through curriculum framework that the policy begins to get implemented. The work has already started. 102 themes have been suggested to you, and some of you must have definitely answered those themes, giving suggestions how to implement this education policy. That was the questions. 101 actually, because 97, number 97 theme was missing. Then 2002, 2003, they have to reach the national professional standard for teachers. So teachers prepared for the transformation in the assessment system. So assessment system change will have to be ready by 2023, the new system of assessment. So for the time being, everything will continue as usual. Until 2023 onwards, the assessment system will change. It will have to go into the Parak mode. And the assessment system is a very interesting one because it is no more like the assessment that we are doing now, examinations that we are having now. Okay, we give a question paper, you answer those questions, and then no, it is going to be a four-way assessment. There will be self-assessment of the students by students themselves. There will be peer assessment. There will be teacher assessment, and there will be parent assessment. So all this will be amalgamated together into the 365 kind of a progress card, holistic progress card that will be prepared with all the aspects of the child, all the abilities and capabilities and aptitudes and gradings of the students will be in that progress report. So the assessment system and progress report system will change. 2025, 2026, what they have to achieve is universal foundation literacy. That means ECC 100% must be reached by that time. At least 50% of learners exposed to vocational education. Vocational education also, exposure to vocational education starting from class 6 will start in 2025-26. They have to start off. Then the next target is 2029-30, 2030 universal provision for early childhood complete 100% education enrollment. Then teacher education, the 4-year course will only be there from 2030. All other 2-year course and less than that will stop. So these are the target, and the policy will become fully operational level in 2040 onwards. The policy is absolutely 100% operational level. So it's a long way to go. 20 years of preparation, but actually really only 2 years for national curriculum framework, then assessment system by 2023, like that. So it is timeline. That's a timeline of implementation. For the first time, an education policy is bringing out a timeline, whether they will reach or not. High target, but how to reach this target is the question. Concentration of funds in elite institutions. So what will happen? The danger, the apprehensions are educational products will move into multinational companies and it will become a business promotion. Financial and industrial houses will take over. That's the public fear. Public funds to produce skilled managerial, research-oriented and technical corporates for international monopolies. So international institutions coming in, business houses coming in, industrial houses coming in, will make education very, very costly and commercialize it. Curriculum will be upgraded to cater to standards of the elite and the private institutions. That's another fear. Fee structure will be revised to bar poorer students. So the poorer students will get edged out of the whole system. And it is one way of also the caste system being once again going back in the caste system, which has been slowly being eradicated, but now it will perpetuate. Unaffordable hikes in fees is feared. There are terrible decline in standards, and a rural-urban divide will be there. Digital divide will be there. Deepen the class divisions and widely already existing disparities. So caste and class division will get emphasized. Another suspicion is why this policy just at this wrong time. For us, it is not a good time that we are going through. Everybody knows that. So why this policy at this time? When the pandemic is plaguing the country. Some call it national exclusion policy because of the 6 type of exits that are there. Because of no reservation for SC, BC, OBC, scholarships are only on merit, not for any scheduled castes or tribes. Exit by early segregation and examinations in class 3, 5, 8, 10, 12. That's so many multiple examinations means it could be multiple. How these examinations will be conducted, that it will depend very much also on that. Early segregation, bringing in vocational education in class 6, it looks very good, but is it to tell those poorer students or children from the lower class, you please learn what your fathers did, or what your hereditary job or carpentry or plumbing or something like that, and you remain in your village, don't come into the city or don't go for higher education. Is that the message? That's another apprehension. Exit through multiple entrance graduation. 1 year certificate course, 2 year diploma course, 3 year BLA, and 4 year graduation. Is it going to weed out students at every step? Because those who exit, but not all of them will come back. And then exit through the single window higher education joint entrance examination. So is it a fairy tale policy? How are you going to achieve this? We have got more elementary problems, like how are you bringing children to school in rural areas? Distant villages are there in our country, where children have to walk for miles and miles to go to school. Can you transport them? How do you retain students in the school, especially girl children, when you don't have 3 lakhs of Anganwadis without toilets, 1.5 lakh of Anganwadis without drinking water? How do you bridge the rich and the poor divide, rural-urban divide? 60% of GDP is only a promise. How do you enable teachers? We are talking about a very high technical integrated 4-year B.Ed course, when even the basic skills are not there for who are teaching in the rural schools. There are schools with no teachers and there are schools with one teacher schools. So these are hard facts that are there. How are you going to reach 50% enrollment ratio when the percentage just now is only 26? How do you bridge the digital divide? Child marriage and child labor is still keeping 2 crores of children out of school. So these are hard realities that the country is facing, which the government doesn't seem to know. Policies from the center, implementation by state. So the policy seems to be helping out the state, but then finally the policy itself and all the burden of implementation falls onto the state. So it goes also against the federal character of the constitution of this country and undemocratic. This policy could be a non-starter if this defect is not removed. One very major problem in our education system, according to the district school data of 2017-18, we had 2.38 crores enrollment fell in 2017-18 from that what it was in 2010-11 in government schools. 2.38 crores of children dropped out of government schools, and out of that 2.11 crores of children joined the private schools. Many of them the low budget private schools. There are thousands of low budget private schools that pay a fee of 300-400 rupees a month. Now, why this dropout from such huge, it goes into crores of children dropping out of government school in the question of 5-6 years time and joining private schools? Obviously, the reason is very clear to us. The teaching is not taking place. 68% of elementary schools have less than 100 students. Average is 45. If teacher accountability in public schools is not established, NEP is going to be a non-starter. The teacher accountability in public schools. In public schools, teachers don't attend school. If they come to school, they don't teach. Teacher absenteeism is extremely high. So unless this accountability of teachers in public school is not established, things are not going to get anywhere. Government employees get 27,000 annually for education of children. If a fraction of this could be given to private schools, it would benefit the country a great deal more. Now, some of these apprehensions, there was a webinar in St. Thomas College, Palai, which is the third oldest college in the country, established in 1919. It belongs to the Diocese of Thrissur in Kerala. They had a webinar where 6,000 people participated in that webinar, and the key speaker, the keynote speaker was Dr. Shakila Shamsu. Now, Dr. Shakila Shamsu is an officer on special duty for national education policy, and she has been working with this policy from TSR Subramanian draft time onwards. That is 2016. So she has been working with this TSR Subramanian draft, then Kasturirangan draft, then the draft that was brought out by Dr. Smriti Irani, and then the draft that was brought out by Dr. Nishank, the present education minister. So she has seen it all, and she is the one who drafted it. So she was the speaker, and to her, we addressed some of these questions. Some of these apprehensions that I mentioned, we addressed to her. And she, in her speech, replied to each one of them. The first thing that we asked her was that, is it a fairy tale policy? Is it achievable? Is this policy achievable? Her answer was very simple. She said, ultimately, each policy or a bill or any legislation depends on the political will. If the state governments don't cooperate, if the central government doesn't cooperate, it falls flat. Political will has to be there. So it depends on that. That was her answer. Another question that we asked is, there is reservation according to caste and CBC and OBC is removed. It will be only, reservation will be only for those who are in special education zones or in a special social, economic and disadvantaged groups. Underrepresented groups, there even minorities are listed there. Minority rights are not mentioned anywhere. Federal system seems to be trampled upon, etc. So what is your reaction to that? What is the reaction to this apprehension? And she said, policy always works under constitutional values. So matters regarding constitutional values will remain. Policy cannot touch that. So whatever comes under the policy has to respect the constitutional values. So I think here you will get the answer. It is subservient to constitutional values unless the constitution is changed, which may come, we don't know. The next question is, again, the question that we are all afraid of. Does this education policy cause commercialization, privatization? Education will be more costly with foreign universities coming in, industries and corporate houses taking over education. Then her answer was like this. In this policy, we are making education both affordable and viable. Affordable and viable. It has to be made affordable for especially economically disadvantaged zones, that means special education zones, that is tribal areas and people where SCBC and OBC people are concentrated. It has to be made affordable for them. So we have to give them free education. We have to give them transport. We have to give them water supply. We have to give them free meals. We have to give them free books. Now that has to be offset by income coming in from these institutions of excellence, foreign universities coming in, industrial houses running institutions. So that is the reason it has to be affordable and viable. Then our fear about school complex and twinning of schools. If minority institutions are compelled to join a school complex of the government's choice, then it may violate the minority rights. Then she clarified it, saying that it is not meant to violate any minority rights. It is only meant to share resources in order to make the teaching affordable. Because if you have got multidisciplinary education and things like, say, yoga, arts, agriculture, or any specialized skills, innovative skills to be introduced, then it needs special resources. And so such resources cannot be, you cannot have a, say for instance, a yoga teacher for each and every school. You can have a yoga teacher for a school complex. You cannot have an expensively specialized arts and crafts teacher in each school. You can have it for a school complex. So that resource, personal human resource as well as material resource can be shared. So this school complex idea is only for sharing resources, human and material resources. That was her answer. Early child care and education getting maximum stress and language issue. That is another question that we asked. She said, we are giving maximum stress to these 5 years of foundational course and literacy and numeracy stage, because that is the age before before age 8 is the time when children can learn maximum languages and maximum skills. Another question that we asked was, will English medium schools be there? Because the new education policy says medium of instruction should be in local language up to class 5 at least, if possible up to class 8. Does it mean that there will be no more English medium schools? Plainly we asked that question. She said no. Parents and students will have the right to choose the medium of education. So it will continue. It is up to the parents and the teachers to choose the medium of education. But bilingual explanation of concepts, scientific concepts, technological concepts, and technical terms for conceptual understanding, bilingual explanation is very much required. So you will have to explain the main scientific terms and other things which is best understood in the mother tongue, which of course we also understand that, no problem with that. So she says this medium of education is a choice of the parents and the students. If single stream higher education institution can't move into, so there are a lot of arts college, B.Ed college, especially Catholic Church has got a number of B.Ed colleges right across the country. There are a lot of single stream colleges are there. Now, if they cannot move into a multidisciplinary college with 3,000 students in 10 years time, what happens to them? Her answer was, it will be best if they can move into multidisciplinary colleges, so that which means you have got 10 years time to add on other streams to make it multidisciplinary and increase your student strength. If that is not possible and some schools are still stuck, especially in a place like Thura, in Garo Hills, in Meghalaya, we have got a B.Ed college. In Dimapur, we have got a B.Ed college. Definitely those colleges will not become multidisciplinary and we may not get 3,000 students. Then she said you can think in terms of those colleges belonging to a college cluster. They can tie up, network with a college cluster. So these are some of the answers that we put to the government body, to the person who is considered the mother of this education policy draft, Dr. Shakila Shamsu. So that is about education policy. Now, I don't know what's the time now. It's already 4 o'clock. If you want, you can stop me now. Otherwise, I will tell you what I have done is we have given some suggestions to the government about the curriculum framework with the questions that were asked to some of you, and I will take you through just a few of them. Like 25, how will you bring local context, local culture, local history, local language into the education system? Give your suggestions. So what I have suggested is, and I passed on this to others also, introduce cultural festival, folk dances, folk songs, focus on genuine history, and make sure that the books are not manipulated, like the books of Dinanath Batra, the famous writer who writes on all kinds of things. Bring in best practices, technology, participatory classes, etc. What are your ideas on implementing the medium of instruction, teaching, learning in mother tongue, etc.? Here again, we have suggested that it should be left to the parents to decide and the child to decide what should be the medium of education. But bilingual explanation is most welcome. What's the best way of ensuring effective education for scheduled tribe, scheduled caste? We have said very clearly, northeastern states, all the northeastern states are tribal states. They should come under special education zone, and underrepresented groups are there. So there they must give all facilities, promote their culture, promote their language, give them free meals, transport, etc. So we have given suggestions like that. What are your ideas on promote multilingualism? Teaching 100 sentences from major languages, that I said it's a very futile idea. But children can be taught 3 language system, no problem. What are the activities to ensure child gains knowledge and practice of human constitutional values? That is, preamble of the constitution must be taken, etc. some other teacher education reform we have given suggestions. Special education zones, about that. How do you identify? That means all the tribals. Here again, we have got a very beautiful opportunity now. We have got a lot of people, lot of tribal areas. We must insist with the state government, take up this idea with the state government to declare those areas as tribal areas, as special education zones. And people living there, the SC, ST, OBCs as underrepresented groups, so that special funding, scholarship, reservations will be available to such people. That is something that all of us must take it up with the state governments. Now the implementation, much of it is on the state government. Language, gender, religion, etc. How the teacher should be apolitical. That this is about special education. Now another thing is that is coming in is special children with special needs. How to deal with them. See, number of themes were on that 63, 64 to 86. Imagine the number of themes on and mentioning each type of disabilities. What is your suggestion how to teach these children with disabilities? What we have responded to them is that children with disability is now expected to be taught in in regular schools. We cannot call them normal schools, regular schools. But what we have said is that children with acute disability and multiple disability and disabilities of a certain serious nature should still continue to be educated in special education, special schools, not with others. So we are not aggressively resisting the admission of children to regular schools, but if the disability is manageable, but if the disability is acute and multiple, then they must go to special education institutions for their own benefit. How do the states implement the complex? Again, with the complex school complex also we have suggested that it should be for the government schools of a particular area belonging to the school complex is okay, no problem, because they don't violate any minority. But if minority schools are asked to join, so the suggestion we have given is leave the option to them. What kind of complexes do they want to make? If a particular number of schools belonging to a particular NGO or a trust want to make a school complex of their own, they should be allowed. If the Catholic schools have a particular area, every place there will be number of Catholic schools. If they want to make a complex together, they should be allowed. But nobody should be forced to, a minority school must not be forced to enter into a school complex with others inside. So leave it to the schools to decide what kind of school complex they would like to choose so that it does not clash with minority rights. How will you raise awareness about the need of vocationalization? Vocationalization, we said the best thing is to avoid the suspicion from the minds of people that it is not for discouraging lower caste students to continue in their studies. So the mental prejudice against this apprehension must be created through vocational education must be removed. And appreciation and promotion of children from the lower class, children going for vocational education must be appreciated and they should be promoted and they should be helped out. That was the suggestion. So these are some of the areas where these are just to give you an example that we can still approach the state government and the implementation agency, that is the National Curriculum Framework Office, to make these adjustments in the implementation, because policy is a vision, policy is a long-term objective, but it depends on how it's going to be implemented. So very much we can have our suggestion, approach local leaders, approach state government officers, approach the education department of the states to ensure that these don't go against our minority rights or against our or that all our apprehensions are addressed to, and it can still be addressed because it is at the implementation stage. So that's all I had to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father.
I don't know if you could hear what I was saying and presenting.
Yes, Father, it was clear. It was very much clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for sharing your perspective on the topic. Now we can take a few questions. If anybody has any question, can please raise their hands so that we can take up a few.
Father, does this policy talk anything about the foreign languages?
See, what the policy says about languages, generally there will be a 3-language formula. And now they have made it absolutely non-controversial by saying that it depends on the states and the union territories to choose what language they want to teach the children. About foreign language, Indian classical languages and foreign languages will be available on an optional basis from class 6 onwards. That's
Okay.
a clear.
Okay.
Father, good evening, Father.
Yes.
Beautiful presentation from your side. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy. See, Father, I have one doubt right now. See, the policy always remains as a document. It is not a law.
It is not a law.
Maybe the policy can lead to make a new law. What I want
Yes.
to convey, Father, see, you are speaking about the 15 vice chancellors. See, there are so many opposition going on in and around the country.
Yes.
For all the 15 vice chancellors are excellent people. There are so many policies are withdrawn by the government. When the new government is formed, the policy put into the dustbin. Even court cannot entertain with the policies. When government takes certain policies, even court doesn't
Court will
interfere.
not interfere.
When turned into a bill, the court interferes. For just imagine, there are so many things, there are so many loopholes. For example, take the literacy ratio of India. Take Kerala goes for 96%. Take Tamil Nadu 89%. Take Delhi 88%. Take Rajasthan 66. UP 76. Below 60, there are so many states. Today morning, I watched in the English news, one debate was going on about this policy. Delhi government has given nearly 20% total GDP for new education, for the education. Even the government speaks about new education policy only 6% GDP. It was proposed in 1966, not yet touched till today. But the new education policy speaks about 6%. Today's calculation, the Delhi government touches 20 GDP, the total income of Delhi government. Even they say, even the Delhi government school cannot be compared with any school in the even Delhi city. They say, I do not know, but today's debate I watched today. So what I want to say, do you minimize the vice chancellor views or the opposition parties? There are so many things that are going against the education policy. Do you underestimate all those things, Father?
See, it is not question underestimating. If these objections are and apprehensions are addressed to, that would be the best thing to happen. In fact, the first draft was totally removed. The government can't do that. But seeing the situation now, look at the past 2 days. Don't go very fast behind. Past 2 days. Farmers' bill was passed with tremendous opposition, but it was passed. Yesterday, FCRA amendment bill was passed. These are totally that goes against, social activists. That means they don't want any social activism in the country. All civil activities they don't want. Civil activists they are suppressing. Secondly, the farmers' bill. Now, the problem now at the moment is not that if the opposition was strong, if their voice was heard, this can all be amended. All these problems can be addressed to. But unfortunately, do we have an opposition now? That's the question. We don't have an opposition. These matters can be taken up only in the parliament through political parties. Political parties have become toothless. So that is the real problem. The apprehensions are genuine, but it will be brushed aside.
Thank you, Father.
So at least we can approach the implementation time that this be considered, locally considered, because the local parties will be more listening to you, more open to your suggestions.
Yes, thank you so much, Father.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Now I invite Monica ma'am to kindly propose a vote of thanks to Father. Monica ma'am.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. Good evening to Reverend Fathers, sisters, and all teachers present here. Thank you so much, Father Joseph. You have really given an in-depth knowledge of National Education Policy 2020. Through your wonderful PPT presentation, you have explained very well reforms in higher education, teachers' education, and special education curriculum. As said by you, is it one more nail on the coffin of democracy? It is really a thought-provoking statement that must have created a thought process in mind of all of us. You have definitely cleared maximum doubts on this national education policy. It was really an eye-opening session. Thank you so much, Father, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Father.
Okay. Okay, then I'll leave you now because I got another program coming up.
Okay, Father. Thank you so
Father.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
See you some other time. Thank you so much.